If this video showed up now, listen closely, because this isn't just a video. It's a calling. It's not a coincidence. It's vibrational code. You were pulled here because something in your field crossed the activation point, and from now on, either you wake up or keep repeating patterns that were never yours. Thoth left 11 codes. They're not words. They're frequencies. Frequencies that collapse the old and ignite what was asleep. If you feel like you're at your limit, like something needs to change, like life is pushing you towards something you still don't understand, it's because the first code is already trying to manifest. You'll hear things here that aren't just meant to be understood. They're meant to be felt. And if you stick with me until the end, you'll realize these codes aren't outside. They are you. Code 1, the divine restlessness. There comes a moment when everything seems the same, but nothing fits anymore. The coffee tastes the same, the path is the same, people say the same things, but something in you starts to feel weird about all of it. Like life has turned into a poorly rehearsed play, and you suddenly realize you're acting in a role you never chose. And this moment is subtle. It doesn't show up with a bang or with answers. It shows up with discomfort, an almost silent restlessness that just won't go away. You try to go on with your routine as always, but something feels off. And the weirdest part, there's no obvious reason for it. This is the first activation. Thoth said true awakening never starts with big revelations. It starts with small discomforts, like sand in your shoes, like an invisible itch in your soul, because that's exactly how the code of restlessness manifests, by creating an internal noise that won't let you fully go back to sleep. It's not pain, it's not fear. It's more like a kind of spiritual boredom, like you're stuck in an old scene but can already smell something new. And even without knowing what this new thing is, you know you need to find it, because pretending everything's okay becomes more and more unbearable. That feeling is the clearest sign that your soul has started to wake up. The body feels it first. It tightens your chest. It gets tired for no reason. It refuses to perform. The mind tries to resist, to come up with explanations, to rationalize. But the body already knows something's moving. And here's the crucial point almost no one understands. The restlessness isn't a mistake. It's the alarm. It's the knock at the door saying, you're ready to leave the first layer of illusion. It's like the universe whispering, wake up. There's more to this than what you've been living. Only instead of hearing this calling, most people try to silence it, with distraction, with work, with addictions, with too much control. All just to avoid feeling what, deep down, is inevitable. The sense that it's time to change. But change what? The restlessness doesn't show you the destination. It just pulls the ground out from under you, because that's how it starts, with the discomfort of no longer fitting into what once felt comfortable, with the feeling that something's about to happen, even though you don't know what it is yet. And that's why so many people ignore this phase, because it's confusing, quiet, with no clear direction. But those who honor this restlessness, who stop, listen, and embrace it, take the first step toward true awakening. Thoth called it the first touch of inner time. It's the moment when, for the first time, you realize that life isn't just what's in front of your eyes, that there's a bigger plan, a hidden calling, a plot that's been unfolding all along, but you're only now starting to notice. And when you feel it, that emptiness that isn't sadness, that noise that isn't pain, you start to move. Not to run away, but to search. And that search is what activates the other codes. But be warned, this restlessness won't go away with quick answers. It won't vanish with ready-made formulas, because it didn't come to bring you comfort. It came to pop your bubble. It's the breaking of the shell. If you're feeling this now, then congrats. The first code is already vibrating in you. This discomfort isn't your enemy. It's a sign. Code 2, the invisible language. And that's when things start to get even weirder. Because after the discomfort, after the feeling that something's different even if you can't explain it, you begin to notice something else. Ordinary words, which used to go unnoticed, now hit you differently. A simple "stay in peace" seems to echo inside you. An old song makes you cry without warning. A name, a phrase, a quote, and bam, something moves in your chest, like it's carrying an invisible weight. You don't know why, but you feel it. You feel it in your body. You feel like those words went through your skin and reached a place you didn't even know existed. This is where the second code starts to kick in. Thoth never shared his wisdom just through the content of words. He was the master of vibrating language. For the ancients, sound was a form of magic, but not like people imagine: spells, enchantments, dramatic effects. It was magic because sound had direction, it had intention, and it carried a vibrational signature capable of passing through the subtlest planes of reality. In the temples, initiates didn't start their rituals by speaking. They chanted pure sounds, drawn-out sounds, sacred vowels. They knew certain frequencies aren't heard by the ears, but absorbed by the energy field. Each vowel activated a part of the body, a chakra, an organ, a memory. And this isn't metaphorical, because you feel it in your skin when someone says something that hits deep. It's not always what was said, but how it was said, the vibration behind the sentence. An "I love you" without presence doesn't touch anyone, but a single word spoken with truth can change your whole day. That's the secret. Activating language isn't logical. It's energetic. It communicates with something beyond the rational mind. It's like certain words are keys. But what unlocks those keys isn't the right combo of letters. It's the frequency that comes with them. And that frequency is alive. Thoth didn't leave messages that just anyone could read. His words were vibrationally coded. That's why so many read them, studied them, researched them, but didn't get it. Because understanding doesn't happen in the intellect. It happens in resonance. And that's why now certain phrases hit you harder, because your vibration changed. Your field started tuning into a different frequency, one where truth doesn't need explanation. It just pulses. You might be hearing this right now and feeling something different. A shiver, heavy eyelids, a sudden urge to cry without sadness. That's your field responding. Because when invisible language shows up, it doesn't go through the mind. It goes straight to your subtle consciousness and activates. That's why you need to start paying attention not just to what you hear, but to how you feel what you hear. The right words will feel like magnets. They'll repeat. They'll show up in unlikely ways. They'll pop up in books, in conversations, in dreams, in random thoughts. But none of them will be random. And maybe you'll start to notice that your own voice has changed too, that your speech is slower or more precise, that some words you used before don't work for you anymore, that you start going quiet before replying. That's a sign you're no longer speaking just with your mouth. You're starting to vibrate with intention. And here's something almost no one tells you. The words you say about yourself shape your reality. If you call yourself insecure, stupid, a failure, your field adjusts to the vibration of those words. But if you start consciously choosing every affirmation, even if it feels like a lie at first, you begin to shift the pattern of your field. This is vibrational coding. It's sound alchemy. It's not what you say, it's what you vibrate while saying it. And when that vibration starts to change, something invisible starts moving around you, because the right words, said from the right place, with presence and intention, are like activation codes. They don't need to convince anyone. They awaken, they reveal, they remind. And if you've made it this far, it's because one of those sounds has already started vibrating inside you. Your body felt it. But the next code will show what happens when you decide to listen to what's beyond sound. Code 3, the creative void. And it's when you start listening to what's beyond sound that a new experience unfolds, a space that's scary but has always been there. A kind of silence that isn't absence but pure presence. And it's in this moment that the third code begins to pulse, the void. But not the kind of void the mind fears, not the hole of loneliness, giving up, or abandonment. This void is different. It's not an end, it's a beginning. The ancients knew nothing can truly be created while something is still occupying the space. That's why, before creation, there must be space. Before manifestation, silence. Before the word, pause. And Thoth, as a master of cycles and cosmic principles, taught this not as a philosophical idea, but as a living practice. Thoth's void was honored in temples as the womb of the universe, that place where everything rests before it arises, where potential hasn't yet turned into form, and where all genuine creation must pass through to be born whole. This code, the one of creative void, is one of the hardest to accept because it requires symbolic death, a temporary surrender of the need to understand, control, or fill. The mind by nature hates the void. It tries to fill it with anything, repetitive thoughts, useless worries, constant noise. But the spirit blooms in that silent space. That's where it can breathe, expand, access dimensions that logic could never reach. And that's where a lot of people get lost. Because when they feel the void coming, they mistake it for a crisis, a downfall, weakness, when in reality, it's the field clearing itself to receive the new. The code is already active, but it needs space to work. Have you noticed how, at certain moments in life, everything seems to stop, projects stall, people drift away, time slows down, and you don't understand why? But if you look closer, you'll notice. It's the universe making space. It's life whispering, relax, something bigger is trying to emerge. But that only happens when you have the courage to stay, not to run, not to fill it with distractions. Stay in the silence. Stay in the not knowing, stay without trying to control what comes next. Thoth taught that the void is like a dark mirror. It reflects what you haven't yet had the courage to face. That's why it scares you. That's why it's uncomfortable, but also why it's freeing. Because in that mirror, you find parts of yourself that were suffocating. Old voices, forgotten wisdoms, desires buried under duties and fears. The void is not a punishment. It's a passage, a narrow tunnel between who you were and who's ready to be born. And the most powerful part, it's in this space that you start to hear something that was never really silenced, just muffled. Your own inner voice, not the one that repeats what others said, but the one you've always carried and forgot to listen to. It's in the void that it comes back. And then, effortlessly, ideas start to come. Intuition becomes clearer, decisions feel lighter, the body relaxes, because now the field is clear, and the code is activated. But this code only fully reveals itself when you accept not knowing, when you sit down, breathe, and just be. No rush, no answers, just presence. And what if it's in that silent space that your answer was always waiting? Code 4. The sound that creates. And when the answer doesn't come as a word but as a feeling, a new kind of perception starts to emerge. You no longer search for explanations. You begin to listen to what you emit, because something changes inside of you when you realize the sound that comes out of your mouth isn't just noise, it's creation. And that's where the fourth code starts to show itself. Every time you speak, the universe responds, not as judgment, but as a mirror. Every word you say carries a frequency, and that frequency touches your field before it touches the world. The ancients knew this. They didn't waste sound. They didn't speak just to speak. Every syllable was chosen consciously because each sound activated a possible reality. That's why repeating the same kind of talk, even if it seems harmless, creates invisible cycles. When you say, "This always goes wrong for me," the field remembers. When you declare, "Nothing ever works out for me," reality records it. And without realizing it, you become a channel for repetition, not creation. But Thoth taught another way. He said that sound, when spoken with pure intention and total presence, is a direct access portal to the creative field. It's not about inventing pretty phrases. It's about vibrating with truth. When speech comes from an aligned place, it reorganizes the space around it. It's like reality gets pushed by sound waves, shaping what was once stuck. And this applies to everything, from a whispered prayer to the most honest venting. What matters isn't the volume, it's the vibrational state that comes with the sound. It's the internal field from which the sound emerges. That's why words born from anger feed anger. Words born from pain prolong pain. But when you speak from love, from truth, or surrender, something starts to dissolve around you. In the temples of initiation, each sound had a purpose. One to open, one to heal, one to remember, one to silence. Initiates spent years in silence before being allowed to chant, because sound was sacred. It was alchemy. Today, we've forgotten that. We talk too much. We talk on impulse. We talk to fill the space. But sound hasn't forgotten its power. And the universe is still listening. The field responds to everything, even to what you say about yourself in thought. Because thought is also sound, just subtler, yet it still shapes. This code reminds you that you are conjuring the world with your own voice. And if you start observing honestly, you'll notice there's an energetic signature in the words that most often come out of your mouth. They reveal a lot more about your current vibration than you think. They show where your energy is stuck, but they also reveal the door. Because it's through sound that you can begin to reprogram, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. Starting with conscious silence, and then choosing every word like planting a seed. If you want to change your reality, start by changing your speech. Change what you repeat. Change what you accept as truth. Change the tone. Change the frequency. Because everything starts there. The sound coming out of you is either creating realities or repeating prisons. Code 5. The embodied word. And when you start realizing that every sound you emit shapes invisible layers of your world, a new and inevitable question arises. How much of what you say do you actually live? Because repeating a truth is not the same as becoming it. And that's exactly where the fifth code starts to move, quiet but relentless. In the ancient initiation rituals, repeating sacred texts out loud wasn't just a memorization exercise. It was a test, a mirror, a path. The initiate was only considered ready to move forward when their internal vibration aligned with what they proclaimed. The word stopped being information and became identity. What was read was now lived. Thoth called this the living verb. A word not just spoken, but embodied. Not in a figurative, but in a literal, energetic sense. The body vibrates according to what you hold as truth. And if your words say one thing, but your life vibrates another, the field goes out of sync. Nothing flows. Nothing responds. It's like trying to light a flame with water. You can say, "I trust," but if you vibrate control, your words are empty. You can say, "I am love," but if you act defensively, your frequency gives you away. You can claim, "I forgive," but if resentment still lives in your chest, the universe understands. That word hasn't been embodied yet. The embodied word is a spiritual technology. It doesn't need to be shouted. Often it's silent, but it pulses, it shapes, it affects the environment. When a truth is truly embodied in someone, it changes the atmosphere. People nearby feel it, because it's not just what that person says, it's what they are, and this applies to any practice. Saying thank you without feeling doesn't create a field. Saying I am light without having faced your own shadows doesn't bring light. But when the word is born from real experience, when it comes out with memory, with healed pain, with conscious choice, it gains vibrational weight. This code is a call to energetic integrity. It's not about perfection, it's about coherence, about aligning speech, intention, and action. When that alignment happens, everything changes. Words start opening paths. Sentences become decrees. Reality starts responding with synchronicity, clarity, and lightness. Because now, the verb is alive. And here's something many ignore. You don't access the next levels of Thoth's wisdom just by knowing. His wisdom reveals itself layer by layer as you live what you've already received. What isn't lived stagnates. What is embodied expands. So maybe the most urgent question right now isn't, what else do I need to know? But rather, what do I already know but haven't yet lived? How many truths do you repeat but haven't embodied? Code 6, the subtle vision. And when you realize not everything you repeat is lived, a question arises that few dare to face. What are you really seeing? Because eyes show forms, but it's the spirit that perceives what's essential. Reality, to the ordinary mind, is a collection of objects, people, situations, and facts. But for someone who has started to awaken, everything becomes a symbol. Thoth never said anything directly. He didn't hand out pre-chewed truths. He offered mirrors, subtle codes, camouflaged in myths, numbers, sounds, geometries, and even in silence. The true initiate wasn't the one who knew more. It was the one who knew how to see, not with the eyes, but with presence, with an awakened heart. Seeing with the heart isn't a poetic metaphor. It's a real vibrational function that starts to activate when the mind loses control and consciousness begins to occupy the whole body. In that state, the gaze no longer clings to appearances. It sees through. It feels. It reads between the lines of a conversation, the hidden gesture in someone's movement, the intention vibrating behind the spoken words. That's why the ancients said the world is a collective dream, not because it's false, but because it's malleable. Because what you see depends directly on the frequency you hold. A person can live in the same environment as you, surrounded by the same situations, and still be in a completely different world, because the inner field changes the outer lens. This is subtle vision, the ability to perceive the invisible behind the visible. The code Thoth gave to those who had already quieted the inner noise enough to see what's always there, but no one notices. And then everything changes. A common object becomes a message. A delay becomes realignment. A seemingly random encounter reveals a hidden purpose. Life stops being literal. It becomes symbolic. And when that happens, you no longer react to things the way you used to, because you begin to understand that everything is communicating with you all the time. Reality, in fact, is a vibrational text being read in real time by your consciousness. But this kind of reading is only possible when you accept that the physical eyes are limited. They were made to capture light and form, not essence. The heart, however, vibrates in the field of the invisible. It reads frequencies. It perceives coherence. It senses when something is aligned or distorted, even without any rational evidence. Code 7, the light body. And when you understand that the outer world reflects what you vibrate, the inevitable question arises. what exactly are you emitting right now? Because the field doesn't respond to what you think, but to what your body vibrates. And we're not talking about muscles or isolated organs, but about the living temple you inhabit and may have forgotten exists. Thoth taught that the body wasn't just matter, but an alchemical structure that carries fragments of the heavens. A living altar, a circuit of intelligent energy, where each cell is a point of condensed light, a vibrational map of all worlds. According to the ancients, each organ doesn't just serve a biological function, but holds an energetic archetype. The liver holds the warrior. The heart vibrates with primordial love. The kidneys carry ancestral fear. The uterus or prostate holds the creative spark. Everything inside you is carved with codes, and each gesture, breath, or silence is a key that activates or blocks these codes. But there's one condition: you must inhabit your body. And this is one of modern consciousness's biggest failings. Most people live disconnected from their own bodies, treating them like machines that just need to function, not like living temples. They feel pain, tension, discomfort, and ignore it. Push it aside, block it, only paying attention when something breaks down. But in that state, the codes don't reveal themselves, because they don't activate under pressure, fear, or rejection. They reveal themselves in presence, in conscious touch, in slow breathing, in walking that feels the ground, in stretching that doesn't force but honors, in the silence where you hear not just the world, but what your body is trying to say. When you inhabit your body as a field, as presence, something changes. Intuition blooms. Tensions become messages. The body begins to organize the mental field. You enter vibrational states that once took hours of meditation just by being present, because now the temple is being used as it was designed, as a mirror between heaven and earth, a channel between the invisible and the visible. Thoth said the body is the first pyramid. Code 8, the inner sound. And what if I told you there's a sound that's been vibrating inside you since before you were born, but you never learned to hear it? I'm not talking about the voices in your mind or the noise of the world. I'm talking about an ancestral sound, a vibrational echo that's pulsed since the beginning of your existence, and that Thoth called the origin note. This sound can't be heard with your ears. It doesn't come from outside. It's born in silence, but it's not silence. It's a subtle hum, a distant beat, a vibration that seems to come from the center of the chest, the base of the spine, or some place you didn't even know existed. And it only shows up when you really start to inhabit your body, when you quiet the mind's noise and anchor yourself in the now. Many go their whole lives never noticing it, but the initiate feels it. At first, it's barely there, a chill during a moment of stillness, a vibrational pulse during a deep breath, a strange resonance while repeating certain mantras. Later, it begins to show up more clearly, in the silence of dawn, in the gap between two thoughts, in the presence of someone who vibrates similarly, or in moments of deep spiritual alignment, when everything just fits, and you don't know why. Thoth said the origin note is the spirit's signature, a unique vibrational code that holds your purest essence. Hearing it, even for a moment, is like remembering who you've always been before any fragmentation. And that's why this code is a turning point, because it reveals what was never lost, just forgotten beneath layers of noise. There's no mechanical technique that can reveal this sound. You have to cultivate vibrational listening, breathe with presence, observe without judging, feel without interpreting, move with awareness. You have to let the body become a tuned instrument So the origin note can finally echo, and when it echoes, everything changes. Decisions that once brought doubt now flow with clarity. You start to feel what's right without needing to explain. Your intuition sharpens. Coincidences become constant, and most importantly, you feel at home within yourself. That sound also has a hidden role. It organizes the field around you. It emits a frequency that resonates in the environment, aligning everything that's out of tune. Chaotic situations start to drift away. Disconnected people grow distant. What's not in your tone doesn't stay, because now you vibrate with authenticity, and reality starts to mirror that. Many ancient mystics described this phenomenon as a calling. Some felt it like a bell, others like the sound of wings vibrating in the ether, some like a silent OM that filled everything from the inside out. But they all agreed on one thing. It wasn't imagination. It was real. And once you hear that sound, there's no pretending you didn't. That note isn't just a reminder, it's a point of return. It marks the exact moment your soul starts to take charge of the journey back to itself. And from that moment on, you're no longer walking in the dark. Because even if the world outside feels confusing, inside, something keeps vibrating, guiding, sustaining, keeping you aligned. Code 9. Vibrational detachment. What you think you're losing might be exactly what was blocking your expansion. But understanding this isn't easy, because when the field starts to align, it doesn't ask if you're ready, it acts. It reorganizes. And the first action of this code is removal. Thoth didn't use the word detachment as some far-off ideal or denial of the material world. For him, detachment was a vibrational realignment, a kind of energetic field purification. When this code activates, everything that's out of sync with your new identity starts to dissolve. And the hardest part? It usually starts with the things you were most convinced you had to keep. People, ideas, desires, relationships, places, roles, objects, patterns. Nothing escapes this code's radar once it kicks in. It works silently, like a cosmic force pulling everything from your field that's held up by fear, control, or ego. And that's scary, because it feels like you're losing stability. But what's really being removed is the illusion that it was stability in the first place. You begin to notice that what once seemed essential now feels heavy. The commitments that once bound you no longer make sense. Promises made by an older version of yourself now feel like chains, and the discomfort you tried to ignore starts growing. But it's not punishment, it's clarity. The code of vibrational detachment never comes as a punishment. It's a gift that only hurts because we're still trying to hold on to what's already gone. Life starts pushing you to new places, and everything that was built on old versions of you begins to fall apart. Relationships collapse, dreams shift, even your body reacts. You might feel tired, have unexplained aches, messed up sleep, a sense of grief without reason, because you're literally being emptied to make room for a new frequency. Thoth taught this with simple images. He said you can't fill a full cup, and that a true initiate doesn't fear the void, they honor it. Because they know the void is the prerequisite for creation. And here's the secret almost no one tells you. This code can't be forced. You can't just say, I want to let go, because the attachment isn't in the words, it's in the vibration. True detachment happens when your frequency rises so high that what doesn't match simply can't stay. It's not that you get rid of things, it's that they no longer belong to you. And that doesn't mean living a life without bonds. It means your bonds are now chosen by the soul, not by neediness. You start connecting with people, places, and experiences that resonate with your essence, and everything that was maintained only out of habit, fear, or guilt disappears, sometimes abruptly, other times subtly, but always with vibrational precision. Code 10. Lucid death. And what if you're going through a death without realizing it? Because not every death is visible. Some happen silently, inside, in layers that unravel without any drama, and that's where the code of lucid death comes in, not as an end, but as a release point. A break from the character you thought you were, because for the new to manifest, the old has to say goodbye. And that goodbye isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it comes as sudden exhaustion, a quiet surrender, a soul-deep fatigue. Thoth didn't see death as the opposite of life. He saw it as part of the transmutation cycle. A true initiate doesn't fight symbolic death. They celebrate it. Because they know it's one of the greatest keys to vibrational transformation, and when it comes, it means something in you has completed its cycle. It's no longer about improving the old version. It's about letting that version go completely, and that can hurt. Because the attachment to what you've built is strong. You spent years holding up an identity, a name, a way of being, a set of beliefs that felt solid. But the vibration shifts, and when it shifts, anything that doesn't match dies. The story loses its sparkle. Ambitions lose their meaning. Old plans feel too small. The world that once made sense starts to dissolve like smoke. Then comes the void. But not the creative kind. It's a threshold void, a space between who you were and who you don't know how to be yet. That's the crossing. And it's not done with logic. It's done with presence, because it's at that point that the mind wants to pull back to the old, while the soul is already calling in the new. And you feel it in your skin, a strange tension between past and possibility, like you're floating between worlds. Thoth said this lucid death was one of the deepest initiations, because it demands total surrender. You can't force the next step. You can't run back. You can only breathe and allow yourself to die to what no longer belongs to you. It's in this symbolic death that the ego starts to detach from roles. You stop seeing yourself as a label, a job, a wound, or a victory, and start to sense yourself as living presence, as consciousness in transformation. And don't be fooled. This death doesn't come with trumpets. Sometimes it shows up on an ordinary morning with a thought that changes everything. A silence that feels eternal. A feeling of ending with no clear reason. And it's real, because your frequency is collapsing the old structure, and anything held together by rigid identity will fall. But there's beauty in that collapse, because every piece that falls away makes room for a lighter version. You start to feel like you don't have to prove anything, that you don't need the masks anymore, that you can just be, and that being doesn't have a shape yet. It's being born, like a sun breaking through the fog, like a sound starting to vibrate without a name. Code 10. Lucid death. Have you ever felt like a part of you just stopped working? Like overnight, something that used to make sense just didn't fit anymore? That feeling, often mistaken for tiredness, sadness, or an existential crisis, is actually the beginning of a symbolic death. And Thoth called that lucid death, the exact moment when your frequency starts letting go of outdated identities, even if your mind is still attached to them. This death doesn't involve a grave or tears. It happens while you're still breathing, walking, talking. But inside, something dies. The character dies. The role dies. The story you told yourself for years dies. And as uncomfortable as it may seem, this is one of the most sacred phases of transmutation, because only what has fulfilled its purpose dies. Lucid death isn't a punishment, it's a portal. A necessary break between what was and what's ready to emerge. But for the new to be born, you have to stop trying to resurrect what's already gone. And that's where the code comes in, letting go without resistance. It's not about forgetting who you were. It's about recognizing that you no longer need to be that version. Thoth said every initiate who fears vibrational death is still stuck in the ego. And as long as the ego is in control, the being won't awaken. Because the ego is built on stability and repetition. The soul, on the other hand, moves through cycles and transformation. When the code of lucid death is activated, it starts deprogramming everything created out of fear. Relationships that no longer match your essence, choices made out of convenience, goals that belong to an old version of you. And the deepest part of this death is that it comes with silence. A silence that might feel scary at first, because it dissolves the noise of the mind that always wanted to control everything. But over time, that silence becomes the fertile soil where a new identity starts to be felt, not invented, not forced, but perceived in layers. And then you notice, you feel lighter. You don't know exactly who you are yet, but you already feel who you're not anymore. That urgency to prove something to the world fades. The need for validation dissolves. You start to walk differently, speak more slowly, breathe more deeply, because the body knows what the mind hasn't yet grasped. A new self is taking shape. This is the phase where many people pull back, because the ego tries to negotiate. It says, but what if it doesn't work? What if you're losing everything, but the code doesn't negotiate? It acts as an unstoppable force of deprogramming, and yes, it's going to hurt. It'll feel like you're leaving behind important things, but through the eyes of the spirit, nothing is ever lost. Only what no longer resonates dissolves. Code 11, the presence that heals. Are you really here, or did you just pass through this video? Sounds like a simple question, but it's one of the most powerful vibrational keys left by Thoth. Because most people don't live. They pass. They pass through days, conversations, places, like shadows that move but don't inhabit. And that's why they don't heal. Because healing, true healing, doesn't happen anywhere else but now. The ancient temples dedicated to Thoth didn't teach complicated techniques. They train presence, because presence is the fertile ground where energy can be reorganized. When you're present, fully present, you stop functioning in the mind's autopilot mode, and it's in that exact moment that the vibrational memories that were stuck begin to move. The mind lives between what happened and what could happen. But the body lives in the now, and that's why the body gets sick when you abandon it to live in the mind. Thoth said, the body is the altar, but miracles only manifest when the priest is present. That phrase, though symbolic, reveals a deep truth. Your presence is the channel through which healing can enter. But what does it really mean to be present? It's not just paying attention. Being present is dissolving into the moment. It's not carrying yesterday's weight or anticipating what hasn't come yet. It's breathing and being fully in each breath. It's hearing a sentence and feeling it in your body. It's touching something and sensing its texture with your spirit. It's letting time stop inside you. And when that happens, something opens. This code is subtle, but incredibly powerful. It teaches that now isn't a moment in time. It's a frequency, a vibration of wholeness. When you access that frequency, the field around you responds instantly. Cells reorganize. Emotions come back into balance. The mind quiets down. Because the now has its own intelligence. It knows what needs to be done. And when you're present, it does it. Many seek healing in methods, gurus, formulas, but they forget the foundation. If you're not present during the process, it won't complete. Presence is the master key that unlocks all other codes, And you don't need any complex ritual to activate it. Just stop, breathe, and allow yourself to be. But watch out. Presence takes courage, because it puts you face to face with what's alive in you right now. And sometimes, what's alive is pain, doubt, fear. And that's why so many avoid the now, because it shows what needs to be seen. But it's exactly by seeing it without running that the code activates. Presence embraces what the mind rejects, and that embrace dissolves layers no technique could touch. In Thoth's teachings, there was a silent practice repeated daily by initiates. Stay in absolute silence for 3 breaths, gazing at a lit flame, asking for nothing, thinking of nothing, just being. And over time, the flame began to reflect something that wasn't visible before, the vibration of the being. Part 12. The Forgotten Key, Conscious Choice. If you've made it this far with presence, something inside you has already begun to move, and that movement calls for a choice. The simplest and most overlooked of all, the choice to vibrate consciously. Thoth said every gesture is a spell, every word an invocation, every thought a vibrational command sent into the field. The universe doesn't respond to what you want, it responds to what you hold. And holding isn't wanting, it's choosing. Every morning, when the first rays touch your body, you're already emitting, even without realizing it, even before getting out of bed. The vibration has begun, and what it carries reflects what you're choosing, even if unconsciously. In the original teachings, there was a phrase whispered through the temple halls: the being is revealed by the simplest choice. Because it's not the big rituals that reveal your true frequency. It's the small habits, what you eat, what you think when no one's watching, what you say when you're tired, what you consume when you're bored. All of it is a vote. All of it is choice. And every subtle choice builds the invisible reality that, sooner or later, will take shape around you. That's why Thoth called this key forgotten. Not because it was lost, but because it was made trivial. People think spiritual choice is just deciding between light and shadow, heaven or earth, to meditate or not to meditate. But true spiritual choice happens in silence, in the space between impulse and action, in the pause where you can react or respond, in the moment you feel anger and choose to breathe, in the instant you could repeat the pattern but decide to go quiet. That's the altar. And when you start living like that, everything changes. The body feels it. The field responds. Synchronicities increase. Because your frequency is becoming coherent, not perfect, but aligned. That means what you think, feel, and do are vibrating on the same wavelength. And that coherence is magnetic. It attracts what's ready. It dissolves what's out of alignment. That's when you realize that a miracle isn't something outside of reality. It's the natural effect of a vibration sustained with awareness. This is the real magic the initiates practiced, living every small act as a vibrational choice, choosing with the body, choosing with the eyes, choosing with silence. Nothing was automatic. Nothing was mechanical. Everything was deliberate. Because reality responds to what is deliberate and ignores what is only superficially desired. That's why, upon waking, they didn't just open their eyes. They aligned, breathed deeply, touched the ground with gratitude, chose what to wear with awareness of the color's frequency, chose what to eat by observing its vibrational impact on their field, chose what to think not to control but to orient themselves. The mind was a compass, not a prison. And just like that, they created reality before even getting out of bed. It's that silent practice that separates the initiated from the reactive. And it's this code that gives you your true power back, because as long as you feel like a victim of circumstances, the field keeps repeating old patterns. But when you start to choose, even in the tiniest details, reality begins to rewrite its structure around you. Part 13. The Celestial Reflection. You are the sky embodied. Maybe you've looked up at the sky many times searching for answers, but what if it was never just a backdrop, but a mirror? The sky doesn't reflect what's going to happen to you. It reveals what's already happening inside you, just in a language few still know how to read. The ancients didn't observe the stars like someone looking for predictions, but like someone finding memories. Thoth taught that true astrology isn't about guessing, it's about remembering. Every star, every planet, every conjunction, they're parts of the same cosmic body of which you are a living expression. You're not under the influence of the heavens. You are one of its living reflections, temporarily vibrating in human form. The ancient initiates studied the sky like they were studying their own blood, because they knew everything pulsing up there also pulses in here. If Mars moves, it means a force of action is pushing to come through in your field. If Venus shines bright, love or beauty is trying to surface on some level of your being. If Saturn blocks, it means something in you needs to mature, integrate, or find structure before moving forward. But none of this comes from outside. It's a reminder from above about something already vibrating within. You are the sky embodied, but you forgot. And this part of the code exists to remind you that the sun isn't influencing your day. It's just reflecting the light already inside you, that the moon isn't stirring your emotions. She's simply revealing what was always there, but that you tried to hide. The sky is the canvas. You are the brush. And every choice you make with celestial awareness paints a new reality on the earthly plane. In ancient times, before the temples fell, birth charts were created in sacred silence. The goal wasn't to figure out someone's destiny. It was to activate their memory of what they came here to support in this life. It was a ritual of vibrational recognition, a reunion with the original mission. And when someone discovered, for example, that they were ruled by Mercury, it didn't just mean they would be communicative. It meant they carried the mission to be a bridge between realms, to translate the invisible into the visible, to speak what others couldn't name. That is the sky embodied, when a celestial archetype finds space to live in the form of action. But that cosmic memory only activates when the ego quiets down, because as long as you're chasing approval, success, or control, the language of the sky will feel far away. But when you start to remember, everything shifts. You look at an eclipse and your body shivers. You read about a rare conjunction and something inside you awakens as if coming home. It's your soul responding to its stellar origin. Part 14. Daily Alignment Practice. You don't need complex rituals to access what already vibrates within you. What the ancients called magic, we now call intentional presence. And Thoth taught, the secret isn't in gathering more knowledge, but in holding the right vibration every day. Because what you do when you wake up sets the vibrational tone your field will carry for hours, and sometimes for entire lifetimes. That's why this code can only be activated through a living, direct, embodied practice. The first conscious breath of the day is like lighting a sacred fire. When you inhale deeply, you're not just pulling in oxygen, you're pulling in awareness. And when you exhale, you're releasing what isn't yours. That simple gesture is where alignment begins. Next comes silence, but not the silence of someone escaping noise, the silence of someone listening beyond it. Sitting in silence for just 1 minute with intention already starts to reorganize your vibration, because the field senses that you're present, and the field only responds to presence, not urgency, not distraction. In that space of silence, your awareness begins to pick up on things the noise of the world usually drowns out, a slight tingling in your body, an intuition you've been ignoring, a subtle sound that seems to come from deep in your chest. Now, chant a vowel, any vowel, but do it with your whole body, not like someone talking, but like someone vibrating. The sound needs to move through your throat and resonate in your chest. A, for example, can open your heart center. I can light up mental clarity. O can ground your energy in the here and now. It doesn't matter which one you choose. What matters is how you vibrate it. The sound doesn't need to be pretty, it needs to be real. Then, place your hand on the center of your chest and say, with intention, I am the code. Don't just say it to say it. Say it like you're activating a memory that's been asleep, like you're naming yourself again. Because every word spoken with awareness becomes a vibrational key. You're not just affirming something, you're coding your own energetic field with a new instruction. This practice seems simple, but if done daily, it starts breaking down old patterns you didn't even know were active. The breath clears, the silence aligns, the sound activates, the affirmation anchors, and in just a few minutes, your field is already operating on a different frequency. And why does this work? Because the universe responds to what you hold consistently, not what you wish for now and then, but what you practice, vibrate, and confirm with your presence. It's like tuning an instrument every day before playing. If you neglect it, it goes out of tune. But if you align it, the sound flows perfectly. Part 15. The silent light. And maybe that's what starts to happen when you stop searching. The body still breathes, the mind still thinks, but something inside you no longer needs to chase answers, because effortlessly, another layer begins to reveal itself. It's subtle, it doesn't shout, it doesn't force, but it settles in, like a light that casts no shadow, like a silence that doesn't disturb, it embraces. Thoth called this state pure frequency. It's not knowledge you acquire, nor a technique you learn. It's a presence that emerges when the seeker dissolves. When the I that wants to understand, control, dominate, is simply no longer needed. You're no longer trying to arrive. You realize you've always been. The silent light doesn't need to be announced. It just is. And for that very reason, it's the highest point of the journey, because all the noise goes quiet. All the questions shrink in the face of what is now lived, not explained. The initiates knew. The peak of the path wasn't a spectacular revelation, but the absence of the need for any revelation. It was the moment when the being became the answer itself. And in that instant, Thoth stopped teaching with words. From here on, everything transmitted is frequency, because the mind can no longer grasp what's needed. Only the field can receive. Only the soul recognizes. You might feel a gentle warmth spreading through your chest, or a vibration in your fingers, or an unexplainable calm. Don't try to understand. Don't try to interpret. Just stay, because now there are no more steps, no more next move. There is only being, wholeness, absolute alignment with who you've always been, before the name, before the form, before the effort of being something. This light doesn't come from outside. It's always been there, silent, waiting for the search to stop so it could show itself. Because while you were searching, it was observing. While you were making noise, it was whispering. And now, at the exact point where the noise ends, it lights up, not as an idea, but as you. Nothing needs to be said. Nothing needs to be done. You are the frequency you were looking for. And maybe, what you're feeling right now, without knowing how to explain it, without being able to name it, is already the activation beginning. If you made it this far, it's not by chance. Your field brought you here. So write this in the comments. I am the code. I'm ready to remember. This isn't just a phrase, it's a collective vibrational activation. And if this content touched something deep in you and you want to help spread this frequency around the world, there's a direct link to support the channel in the first pinned comment. Or, if you prefer, there's the Thanks a Lot button right below, which not only supports but also vibrates with this mission. And before you go, listen to this. A special video has been picked for you to continue this journey now. Click on the screen. I'll meet you there. It's the next key.